We are ready to move on to 1.5, which is variables and expressions. I love this because it is the start of your algebra career, and I find algebra really fun and very interesting. So we are going to go through a couple of our vocabulary words, and I'm going to put the book up here so you can see. Again, I'm taking these right out of your book. And you'll notice in your actual assignment that there's places for vocabulary. The best place to look are where it says key vocabulary. Usually the words you have to put there in your assignment are highlighted in yellow in your book. So don't forget to use the front 2 pages, 2 or 3, depending on where we're at, so that you can find the answers. I try to abbreviate them in your notes. So a variable is just simply a symbol, usually it's a letter, that stands for a number in an equation or an expression. So a lot of times you're going to see X. Notice I'm using the cursive for X. A lot of times you'll see an N or a Y. You may even see an A and B. It can be any letter, or it can be a symbol, so it could be even a heart, or it could be a smiley face. Could be anything. But generally speaking, we use alphabet letters when we're doing variables. A variable expression has some parts to it. It's like making a little soup. So it's made up of numbers or variables and some operations. Okay, so it's trying to express something, and it has variables in it and some sort of an operation. So it could simply be 2 times A plus 6. You could have something like that. You could have A plus B. Okay, anything, it's just trying to express some sort of an amount to you using some of these things you see up here. But a variable expression, it has to have a variable in it, obviously. Okay, we got to go through Mr. Confused Face. We are moving to a time when we're rarely ever going to use the multiplication symbol that looks like an X, for obvious reasons, because it looks too much like the variable X. Are you looking at, if you have 2xb, is that 2 times x times b, or is it 2 times b? I don't know. So we're going to go through the ways that we are going to see multiplication written in your equations. There are 3 different ways. You can use the multiplication dot. It's a dot. That's it. It's a dot. Okay, so moving on, you could see 2 parentheses shoved together. So instead of 4 with the little multiplication x3, this means 4 times 3, because the parentheses are smooshed together. This is 3 times x. But a lot of times you won't see an x in parentheses. You'll see 2 numbers in parentheses. A lot of times you'll see it written as 3x. That just means 3 of the x's. Whatever x is, so let's say x is a 4, it would be 3 times 4. Now, the next one is that there's no symbol for multiplication at all. It just has a variable smooshed up next to a number. 10n means 10 times n. 56x means 56 times x. Okay? So if you need to put a little multiplication dot in there to remember, you can do that. But just remember, those are the ways we're going to start doing our symbol for multiplication now. Okay. We are going to evaluate variable expressions in this lesson. And I think you guys are going to be really good at that, Mrs. Pettis, and others I've just seen on your past math test scores that you really understand algebra. So we're going to substitute everywhere we see an x, we're going to substitute an 8. Everywhere we see a y, this is an and, by the way, it just didn't turn out very well, sorry. Y is going to equal 2. So I want you to evaluate what is x plus y if they equal these two amounts. Well, what I'd like you to do is simply write 8 plus 2 equals, and then solve it. I hope you know that that is 10. And I solved it earlier, and I'll see if I'm right. It is 10. I put my little 8 and my little 2 up here, but I decided it's better to actually write it out. Remember, we got to show our steps. Going to get a little bit trickier. We're going to have to use our order of operations ninja skills, and we're going to find out what is x minus y using these two amounts. X minus y to the second power. Bum, bum, bum. So I substituted 8 for x, and then I substituted the y for 2, but I can't forget my little 2 up there. So what do I do next? This isn't 8 minus 2, it's 8 minus 4, which equals 4, and we're going to circle it. Please make sure that you copy the original one down, and then you substitute, and then you solve. It's so important as you go into higher level math courses that you complete your steps. You'll get to a geometry class that your whole grade for the entire class is pretty much based on can you show your steps. So this one, oops, sorry, I revealed too much. If you have xy, remember up here what that really means, okay? So if you want to pause me and try to substitute in and unpause me, you should have 8 times 2. Or you could have written it as 8 times 2, okay? And hopefully you got 16. So this lesson is not going to be particularly difficult, other than there can be some silly errors made because of a bad substitution. You put the wrong number in, or maybe you didn't follow PEMDAS, the order of operations. So have that page handy in your composition notebook for math, okay? Do check your odd numbers in the back after you've done them, and make sure that you're working forward on this. This is a 2-day assignment, so you should have plenty of time to complete it, but it's important enough that I thought we should spend a couple of days on it. Have a great lesson. This is a fun one. I always find algebra kind of fun. It's like a puzzle. So see me if you have any questions at all, and no question is a silly question.